Raday, Leavy.
Oh, this is a good one. Okay. My brother right here wants to know what I think about ancient alien theory. Or ancient astronaut theory. Pretty much, if you don't know what ancient astronaut theory is, they say, if you ever heard of the pyramids or the Sphinx or, all that stuff going on in South America, the Olmec heads and Pumapunku and stuff like that, and all the pyramids and everything, they say, how did they do it? How did they do it? It must be aliens that came down and did all this other good stuff and seeded mankind and everything like that. First of all, a lot of this information, where it comes from, is from Zecharia Sitchin's work, which has been debunked. Let me tell you that. It has been debunked. I think, matter of fact, you can go to ZechariahSitchinDebunked.com or ZechariahSitchinIsWrong.com. There's a whole website dedicated to scientifically prove to you that he's wrong. So if that's where you're getting your information from, or that's where you see stuff quoting from, understand that is complete bullshit. I can explain why and how, but that's probably a whole nother series of blogs. But just understand, do your research. It's complete wrong. It's complete bullshit. But for what it's worth, where does that really come from? And I can tell you, I don't really like to get all racial and shit like that, but throughout my studies and everything, they've always tried to cover up what people of African descent have done. That's why a lot of people think that the Egyptians were white, or they're Arab, as far as, because there are black Arabs. Matter of fact, the first Arabs were black. But that's why, because they tried to cover it up. And now, if you do any of your research, you know that, all that stuff in Egypt, Egypt is a part of Africa. It's all black people. Matter of fact, even in South America, Olmec heads, a lot of people that built those civilizations, yes, they're black. If you don't like, even all those pyramids and stuff in Mexico and South America, do your research. You'll find that a lot of them, hell, look like me and stuff. So, but for what it's worth, I know I just covered conspiracy theories, and I for what it's worth, for me, it's just one of those things where if you want to maintain power, you can never admit that someone is better than you, or you can never admit that someone has done something that you can't do. You certainly can't admit that someone else could be your father, if that even makes sense. Like I said, I don't want to go too deep into all this, because it takes so many turns, and there's so many details that there's already books written on it. But as far as ancient alien theory goes, look, I'm not going to count out anything, and anything's possible in this universe. Anything is, right? But I will say this. You could say that there's ancient aliens, they came down and, they built everything and gave mankind knowledge and everything like that. Well, now the burden of proof is on you. Now you have to prove to me emphatically that aliens came down. Like, you can't just keep showing me a bunch of pictures and then saying, oh, well, this is what it must have been. Oh, well, see, this looks like a spacesuit. So, this looks like an ancient person in a spacesuit, so that's what it must be. Well, for what it's worth, you say, well, it must be a spacesuit. Well, what if 50 years? I mean, here's the thing. Like, why do we think that spacesuits that aliens would use would be anything like what the fuck we got now? Like, why do you think that they would have big old bubble helmets and shit like that? Like, what if ancient aliens were so advanced that they didn't need spacesuits? Like, why couldn't they just, like, take a thing and just and just breathe off that? I mean, if they're so smart, why do they need big ass bubble helmets and big ass tubes? I mean, it doesn't even make sense. But now you got to show me that your burden of proof is on you. You know. But here's what I can tell you, and here's what I can't say. Like I said, my theory, it's simple. Is for what it's worth, black people did it, Africans did it, and it's that simple. Now, like I said, now the burden of proof is on me, right? Because now I have to be fair. Now I have to say, okay, well, how did they do it? How did they? And you know what? I can tell you this. I don't exactly know how they did it. I don't know exactly how any of it happened. I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is this. I have seen... I've never seen an alien. I have seen black people. Right? And before I continue, there's something in philosophy called Occam's razor. Occam's razor basically states that if there are two or just multiple explanations for the same phenomena that perfectly explain the same phenomena, then you go with the simplest one. You know, so based on simplicity, look, I've never seen an alien. And if I have seen an alien that's disguised as a person or whatever, I mean, I don't know. But that the burden of proof is on you to prove that this person's an alien disguised as a person. But I can tell you this. I've seen black people. I've seen smart black people. And I've seen people in general come together and do amazing things. I've seen smart black people come together and do amazing things. Right? And so... for what it's worth, why not it be the same back in ancient days? See, the only reason how you can accept there's ancient aliens and stuff like that is if you're willing to accept that as a society now that we are the best that's ever been. Right? We say, oh, well, we got, bombs and we got this and we got that. So technically, I mean, we must be the best society that's ever been. Well, what if we weren't? What if we really weren't the best society that's ever been? What if there was some ancient African culture that really probably was a lot more technologically advanced, or not even technologically advanced? Maybe they just, I don't know, maybe they use mental powers. I don't know. But all I can tell you is this. I've seen black people. I've seen smart black people. I've seen smart black people come together and do amazing things. And on that same token, I've seen a lot of people in general forget stuff. And especially going on now, down through the generations and everything like that, stuff gets lost. Right? I mean, there are still texts and scripts in African cultures that have yet to be deciphered. But even in a more modern context, like, we talk about how things gets lost or forgotten or construed over time. Like, just look at religion. We look at Christianity. The Christianity that we have now is absolutely nothing compared to what it, I'll say, should be or what it was way back in the day. The meaning got lost. But see, people today stand up and say, well, yeah, well, I'm a Christian and this is what it is. And this is, for what it's worth, they kind of walk around like this is the best that it is or that it's going to be, and maybe because they feel that we're in the end times and we got to, I don't know, whatever. But, you do your research in history, I mean, it's like, no, it's been degraded, it's degenerated. I mean, it's the same thing with, most other religions and stuff like that. So when you have this huge knowledge base of, how to really build these amazing things, but then again, I mean, it's not necessarily about the things they built, it's about the people. It's about the people, not necessarily what they build. I mean, if you get the right people, then what's built, it just comes. And what they had was societies. I mean, it seems like throughout the generations and stuff, like, the more we get technological and the more we grow and know as people, the less stable we get. I mean, America's only been a superpower for what, 50 years? But Egypt's been around for, but Egypt as an empire was around for thousands. But like I said, as far as ancient aliens go, I've never seen them. Burden of proof is on you. But I mean, for what it's worth, just accept it. I mean, it's the simplest explanation, and it just, you don't sound as crazy. But with that, we're going to get on to the next one. There's probably going to be a lot more on this later, but you know how it goes. With that, Raday out.